is a video to review Chapter 12. This is a couple of different sections together, but this is basically the work with exponents. And so we need to remember that we have rules for exponents, and you're supposed to kind of have those rules written down. But a quick little review of the rules here. We would have if you are multiplying with exponents and you have the same base, you add the exponents. If you are dividing and again you have the same base, you subtract the exponents. If you raise a power to a power, you multiply the exponents. If you raise anything to the 0, you get 1, except 0 to the 0. Can't do that, but anything else to the 0 is 1. And if you get a negative exponent, like x to the minus n, it means 1 over x to the n. And also just remember, if it's in the bottom and it has a negative sign, then you just move it to the top and it becomes positive. So just basically moving it the different direction changes the sign of the exponent. That has nothing to do with the number, just the exponent. So that is your basic exponent rules. And then also we have, if you're multiplying and or dividing and you're raising the whole thing to a power, everything inside gets raised to that power. Okay, so those are your rules. So let's start with this one. So we need to remember that squared means to multiply the thing, whatever it is, times itself. And that's important here because that means it's negative times negative. So that makes this positive 49. This one, and this is kind of a star, you know, pay attention to this. This one's different. This one says negative 7 times 7. That negative is basically like a negative 1. The key is the squared is only with what it's setting by, which is the 7, not the negative. So this answer is negative 49. And remember, we talked about being careful when the way you put it in your calculator, so you don't accidentally, because the way you put it in, the calculator has to know whether you mean number 1 or number 2. Okay, so just be careful and practice that. All right, here we are multiplying. And so when we're multiplying, we can multiply in any order. All of this is multiplying. So we can just do the things that make sense to go together. So 6 times 5, which would give me 30. And then for the y's, we're multiplying, so we're going to add the exponents. So that's a 5 plus 9. So my answer would be 30 and then y to the 14th. Remember that these properties are pretty easy. They just take some practice to make sure you get them figured out. So let me actually fix that. Doesn't look very good. So this problem we have, and remember, just all you have to do is hit pause at any time and you can write these problems down. You can always rewind and go back and check one out. So after you get this problem written down, you can try it yourself. And see if you get it right before you look at me doing it. So we're going to do our rules with dividing, because this is all dividing. So it's only the numbers that have the same base. So that means we're going to have a to the 17 minus 6, and then times b to the 7 minus 9. So we just do everything one step at a time. That's very helpful to not get yourself worried about what's going on. So now we have a, and then 17 minus 6 is going to be 11. And then we have b to the negative 2. Remember to use your calculator if you have trouble with your positives and negatives. Now, all the instructions are going to always tell you for this beginning algebra class to leave your answers with positive exponents. So that means we cannot leave this b to the negative 2 like that. So a to the 11th is fine and stays right in the top, but b has a negative exponent, so we move it to the bottom and it just makes the exponent positive. And then that's it. That's the answer to your question. Okay, so here's another one that we need to simplify. And so we're just going to use our properties here. So 9 to the 0. So remember, anything raised to the 0 is 1. So you just put a 1 there. Okay, and then plus 5 to the negative 1. Well, I can't do anything with that. And that's a way to help you remember negative exponents have to have something done to them for them to make sense. Because they mean how many times you multiply something by itself. Well, I can't do that negative 1 times. So I need to change it to 1 over 5 to the first, because it needs to be in the bottom, and then the exponent becomes positive. And now to truly finish this, so I'm going to write 1 over 5. We would need to get a common denominator and add that together, but I would encourage you to use your calculator, and it's going to give you that fraction added. But if we did that, 1 is the easiest thing to add when you add fractions, because 1 is, of course, 5 over 5, because anything over itself is 1, and you're adding it to 1 over 5, so now they have a common denominator. So when we're adding fractions, we add the numerator, so 5 plus 1 is 6 over the common denominator. The most important part to get to is right here. If that's as far as you can go, that's still great. All right, number 6. So again, remember, you can just pause this and hit and write the problem down, and then hit play, and we'll go through it. So in this problem, we are multiplying and dividing, and that's what we're doing. Everything inside is multiplying and dividing and exponents. So we don't have any adding or subtracting, so that means everything inside gets raised to that power. But just like when we learned order of operations, I would simplify inside the parentheses first, because it will make things easier if you'll get it simplified some. And this isn't anything except I just messed up when I drew that parenthesis. So I'm going to go ahead and simplify inside by using my properties. So I'm going to kind of ignore that I'm raising it to the third. So I'm just going to write that down. I'm going to do that later. So right now, I'm going to deal with inside. So remember, this is one of those things we talked about. If you get confused, especially, remember that these have exponents of 1s. And so feel free to write them in. It makes it easier so we don't make a mistake. So this is going to be x to the 4 minus 1, and then y to the 3 minus 1, and then the entire thing is raised to the third. So let's go ahead and finish inside. So this will be x to the third, 4 minus 1 is 3, y to the second, and then it's still raised to the third. And then now, here's where, remember, multiplying and dividing are our friends. Adding and subtracting makes everything more complicated. Since all of this is multiplication, we can just raise each thing inside, can be raised to that power. And whether you write this step or you just think this step, that's okay, as long as you don't make mistakes. And now you can see you're raising a power to a power. It looks like multiplication, right? Because you got parentheses there. That's exactly what you do to the exponents. So we would just get x to the 9th, y to the 6th. And so that would be what I would encourage you to do, is always simplify inside first and then do that power on the outside. So this is the last example for this video. This is number 7. So again, pause and write that down if you want to work it with me. Same thing, I'm going to do everything inside and get it simplified, and then I'll deal with this outside part. So first I'm going to have m to the negative 4 minus 8, and then I'll have n to the, oh, if you forgot, put a 1 there. Sometimes we think it's nothing or 0, but it's not, it's a 1. So it's 1 minus negative 9. And then that entire thing is to the negative 2. Okay, but again, I'm not worried about that now. I'm going to finish everything inside. So this is going to be m. Now remember, use a calculator if you struggle with this. Otherwise, please just take your time. That's going to be m to the negative 12. And then you're going to have n, and remember, add the opposite. So that's easy to see that that's n to the 10th. And then we're raising that to the negative 2. Now, at this point, I could fix this one if I want, because it has a negative exponent, but I can kind of see stuff's going to get messed up anyway because I'm at this negative exponent. So I'm just going to actually go ahead now that I have this as a product and there's no more, I've already taken care of that I was dividing. I'm just going to raise each one to the negative 2. So I have m to the negative 12 raised to the negative 2 and to the 10th raised to the negative 2. Then I'm going to use my rules, and my rules say raise a power to a power, you multiply the powers. Negative 12 times negative 2 is positive 24. You're going to say it to yourself over and over. Negative times negative is positive. Here I have 10 times negative 2 because I'm raising a power to a power. So that will be n to the negative 20th. And now, again, my instructions are always going to tell me to answer with positive exponents. So m to the 24th is fine, right where it is. And then we need to move the n to the negative 20th to the bottom, and it will be n to the 20th. And that's it. So please, again, pause, rewind, whatever you need to do to study those, and then look for more videos on Chapter 12.